We're here in the pouring rain, the day after I got a text telling me there was a hosepipe ban. I think it sums up British political life at the moment, don't you? Claire Fox here, doing my Inside the Lords, Outside the Lords. As you'll know, we're still on recess, the government's still not working, and just so that you can be assured that I haven't disappeared, I'm here in Westminster because I might not be working in the House of Lords, but I'm working on a whole range of political issues. More importantly, programming and putting together this year's Battle of Ideas Festival, October the 15th and 16th. I was prompted to have this conversation for two reasons. Firstly, Inside the Lords will resume as normal in a couple of weeks. Every week you will be able to get my update on what's happened inside Parliament. But it will also appear on our very exciting new Substack, which is the Academy of Ideas with Claire Fox. And I hope that if you haven't signed up, that you will sign up, and you can get all the news straight via that email from Substack 2 or 3 times a week. That's the first thing to say. If you have never seen Inside the Lords and this is you're new to all this, honestly, it's worth knowing what really goes on at the seat of power behind those very beautiful external buildings, because they might look beautiful, but there's quite a lot of grubby politicoing that needs to be exposed, and that's what I try and do every week, to tell you what's happening in terms of new laws that are being made. The second thing that prompted me was I got really annoyed about Emily Maitlis's MacTaggart lecture. I used to go to the Edinburgh TV Festival every year, and I went to those MacTaggart lectures, which were given by the great and the good in the media. Often very impressive lectures they were too. But Emily Maitlis, given that hugely privileged position of being able to speak to everybody, all the insiders in the TV industry, decided that she would use it to complain about the fact that the BBC is, wait for it, pro-Brexit and won't ever criticise Brexit. Now, for those of us who voted Brexit, one could only laugh and feel like you were living in a parallel universe. I did Newsnight with Emily Maitlis for a very long time, you know, often from 2016 onwards, having done it lots of times before. And one of the things that was obvious, and the people used to say who watched it, was that Emily Maitlis might have thought that she was embodying impartiality, but her sneer as she asked me questions made it very clear what she thought of me, what she thought of leaving the EU, and the way that everybody who argued for leaving the European Union, or argued in defence of the Brexit vote once it had happened, was treated on those current affairs programmes, indicated that impartiality really is in the eye of the beholder, that you can sit there and say, I haven't got an opinion, but if you actually talk to the people that you're interviewing in such a tone that it's clear to the viewers that you think that they are despicable and beyond contempt, you know, the viewers aren't stupid, they get the message. I thought it was particularly interesting that Emily Maitlis believes, would you believe it, that it is an affront to democracy and impartiality that there is a secret Tory agent on the BBC board. This refers to Robbie Gibb. A secret Tory agent. First, can we just point out that one member of the BBC board who is known to be a Conservative is hardly a secret Tory agent. It's not like some spying mission. It's also worth noting that even though I don't support them, that we have a government that is a Conservative Tory government that was voted for by the electorate of this country. So it seems reasonable that one member of the BBC board might be an open Conservative. Thirdly, you do think, what's happened to British institutions that they imagine that boards of museums, of galleries, of universities, of the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, can only have a particular type of person, the type that Emily would like, and she imagines that one Conservative sleeper agent, Robbie Gibb, is distorting the whole output of the BBC. Has she watched the BBC recently? I know she's left it. Maybe she stopped watching it, because I can assure Emily that there's nothing about it that makes me think that either impartiality is secure, or indeed that there's a kind of more open atmosphere in relation to discussing populist causes such as Brexit. I think, by the way, that as an aside, she said it was atrocious that Robbie Gibb was given this position. She never named him, by the way, but there's only one, so we know who he is. That's the point. Because he was an advisor to the BBC rival GB News. What I can say is GB News must be delighted because the BBC see them as rivals. That's a compliment as far as I'm concerned. But she also, failed to mention that for 25 years he worked for News and Current Affairs. He was, in fact, I think probably her boss ultimately. He was a respected BBC journalist, but now that he betrayed the cause by advising GB News, by coming out as a Tory, by all of these things, means that he's beyond the pale. So this is relevant because at the Battle of Ideas Festival we've got a whole strand of debates on the crisis in institutions, and I think that story of the BBC and the inability of those at the heart of it for so long, like Emily Maitlis, who now works for LBC and has come out as, she can unapologetically just be anti-Tory, can't she? That's fine. I think that it indicates that those at the heart of institutions don't even understand the criticism that there is a kind of beyond pensant liberal intelligentsia with a worldview that they just do not understand anyone who doesn't share it. And I think that is corrupting institutions, it's corrupting the judicial system, it's corrupting the police service, as we've noticed, in terms of their inability to keep a hold of law and order, but very enthusiastic and energetic embrace of identity politics. It's affecting the GPs and the NHS that we have. It's affecting the prison service. There's a whole range of institutions that we'll be discussing at the Battle of Ideas. So, if you haven't got your early bird Battle of Ideas ticket, get it. And if you haven't signed up for our Substack, do sign up. And even upgrade to paying, because we haven't got any bloody money and it would be helpful. But I do understand there's a cost of living crisis, but any little bit you can give would be helpful. And my final thought is Rishi Sunak has come out and admitted that during the whole of lockdown he was opposed to lockdown because he saw all of the different things that would give beyond COVID, the collateral damage, the cost-benefit analysis, and he said he wasn't allowed to talk about it. I'd just like to point out to Rishi Sunak, he was allowed to talk about it. He wasn't going to be stoned or imprisoned or locked up for talking about it. He chose not to talk about it because he was spineless. That's the only way to describe it. He chose to keep quiet. He spoke about it in meetings off the record, but he never ever revealed it. He never even defended those people who did speak about it, who were vilified and called crackpots, even though he admits that that was the strategy. I mentioned that at the end of this Inside the Lords, Outside the Lords, in the Rain film, because the one thing that the Battle of Ideas wants to do, and the one thing that our Substack will do, is talk about it. Never ever not be brave enough to talk about it, whatever it is. We will always be prepared to say the unsayable, not to be gratuitously offensive, but so that we can bring some light to shine on truth, so that you can at least hear views that sometimes we're told we can't express. So, see you in a couple of weeks from Inside the Lords. Rest assured that politicking goes on even if Parliament's closed.